What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today, I want to get into if it's time to be concerned about Haason Reddick's holdout. There was a report from Rich Cimini that he, being Haason Reddick, did not attend any of the OTAs. Granted, they are voluntary OTAs, but most of the roster was there. He was the big name guy who was absent. Is that something to be concerned about? Let's discuss. So why the need for a potential holdout for Haason Reddick? I think that's where we need to start to figure out the why. Obviously, again, like I said, it's voluntary, but is there a good reason, or is it just Reddick says, I don't want to be there, and that's it? Well, he is in the final year of a contract, and in that contract, he is due $15 million this season, but none of that money is guaranteed. So what does that mean? Well, number one, if, God forbid, Haason Reddick got injured in OTAs and the Jets try to move on, or just anything in general, like the Jets just trying to cut him, that it's very, very unlikely. But then that just frees up the $15 million and he doesn't get anything of it. So I guess he doesn't want to risk anything there. But for the holdout, does he want that new contract? Which that to me seems like the more likely one, rather than I guess the thought of the fear that he's going to get cut and lose the $15 million. Why would you trade for him, even though it was a late pick in, a future draft? But Haason Reddick did say at the time of the trade that he's happy regardless of his contract status, but does his actions now maybe say otherwise? I would lean yes. I would lean that he wants to get a new deal done. Obviously, not having any guaranteed money for this year is a scary thing for a player. And I think they want a little bit or he wants, and his team maybe, a little bit more security outside of just this season. Now, he is going to be an incredible big part of this team on the New York Jets defense. If you look at what his sack production was over the last 4 years, 12.5, 11, 16, and 11 sacks over the past 4 seasons. His best year came in 2022 on that Eagles defense, but even still in what was a down year, I'm saying in air quotes, Haason Reddick was extremely productive. One of the top 5 edge rushers in the sport over the last few years. Now, the question could be how much longer does that remain the same thing? How much longer is he putting up those double-digit sack seasons? But in this New York Jets defense, stylistically, I think it fits what he is looking to do or what the Jets want him to do. He's someone who, pin your ears back and go, and that is something that Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbricht's defense really does often with their defensive linemen. They kind of let them go. They have good cover corners, and it's the defensive line's job to get home rushing 4. And Reddick on the outside with his bend and his quickness usually yields a lot of sacks. So mandatory minicamp for the Jets begins June 11th, which is next week already. We just had OTAs the last 2 weeks. Not a whole lot going on for the New York Jets this week. Don't worry. That doesn't mean that coverage just goes away. But June 11th, which is next week, they have a 3-day period where they are going to be there mandatory for the mini camps and then obviously return for training camp in July. But I think that is what I am going to that's the date, June 11th. If he holds out from mandatory minicamp, then I think we could be a little bit more concerned with the situation. With it just being voluntary OTAs, I'm not there to say that it's a major concern for this New York Jets team. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. Again, if it gets to mandatory minicamp and then, God forbid, even gets into training camp, that is a much bigger deal. And I think we'll cross that bridge when we get there on Haason Reddick. One of the things I really loved from OTAs is just how much we saw the roster. Like, there was a majority of this roster, close to 90%, was the reports out of OTAs, and One Jets Drive was there and in attendance for these voluntary workouts. Now, Haason Reddick not being there, I would love to see 100% attendance. That's just not realistic. And again, I'm just not at that point right now where I think, it's anything to be worried about. The next thing we can get into is the debate whether or not the Jets should extend him now or wait and see how this thing plays out. I see a lot of Jet fans on both sides of the aisle on this one. For the just, see how it plays outside, you have people saying that really good player, fits the 1 year, the window per se of the New York Jets going for it. But let's see how he does this year before we worry about, a contract extension for him. Then you see the other side of the aisle is he's been one of the best edge rushers in the game. Why not just lock him up and give him another contract here to keep your good players? You traded a draft pick for him. Why not just, at this point, go all in with him. You traded for him, sign him now, because you lost, Bryce Huff didn't sign his extension here. He signs with the Eagles, then you trade with the Eagles for Reddick, re-sign him. And then you have kind of the middle ground where it's what if you just tack on an extra year and then it works with this 2-year window that you've created yourself for Aaron Rodgers and this Jets roster and this Jets core. And I think I'm either in the camp of tack on the extra year and have it this year and next year in 2025, or just let this one play out. I'm not really keen on giving him a big 3-year extension, let's say, or anything like that after this year, or meaning tacking on 2 or 3 additional years before this season starts. Either A, let it play out and let the chips fall as they may, or add an additional year for 2025. That's my take on it. But I want to hear from you guys. What would you do with Haason Reddick? Are you giving him the extension now? Do you wait to see how it plays out? Are you worried about him potentially holding out right now? Let me know in the comments. I am Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you guys next time.